The Village Council regular meeting, July 20th, 2022. It's 7:02 p.m. and we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Lori Boudreau. Here. Kelsey Cook.
Here.
Maureen Helmut. Absent. Allison Kemp.
Here.
Ashley Ross.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to excuse Maureen Helmuth. Support. Okay, motion made by Cook, supported by, is that Kemp? Yes. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Any nay? Motion carries. Okay, let's see, number 4 is approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Ross, supported by Bourgeois. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any nay? Motion carries. Okay, number 5 on our agenda. We have 2 presentations this evening. The first one, I guess, is there a preferred order to the 2?
I will let Tim go.
Okay. All right. So we will hear from Oakland County Main Street, please. Thank you. Yes, please.
Well, thank you for taking time out to let us come up and do this presentation. I know there's a lot of new council members, so every year, as part of being a participant in the National Main Street program, as a select level community, Oxford with all the other select level communities, we will do an all-day assessment to validate where they're at as a program. It's not a review of downtown, it's not a review of your businesses and whether your flowers are getting watered. It's a review of the organization and how strong it is and functioning and just how things are going, and then we can take that yearly, and if there's things that need to be built on, we can identify them, and the things that you're doing well, we want to lift up and celebrate. So that being said, at the last evaluation, and it was a very good one, it was a very strong one, and it pleases me greatly to be here tonight. I've done this now I've been coming out here for the last 4.5 years, so 4 years at least of these. And I can honestly say that this community, even through adversity, is doing so much and building on so much right now that, it deserves to be recognized. Just some examples. We're terribly excited about the partnership that just keeps, budding and building with Lake Orion. That's something that I can say for years we've been saying, how can we strategize to get that together? Well, it is, and it's great. I can't wait to be here on the 3rd, right? Yeah. And things that in the past we've said were things that needed to be improved or built on, like the outreach from the DDA to the businesses. It's very strong now. I know you see it, we see it. There's been great improvement. All of that being said, there's a list of 10 standards. I don't want to bore you with what the 10 standards are that they get evaluated on. But out of those 10 standards, we'll do an actual ranking, and you have to average at least 7 out of 10 points in each one of those. You guys have exceeded all of those. So that being said, I'm really happy to give you your plaque for your 2022 accreditation. So this would have been, again, a review for all the things that happened in 2021, but that means they're accredited this year. So if you guys would like to come up and take this from me.
Yeah, because we forgot you last year because you were sitting up there.
Yeah, because every time I come out of the shower.
You're pretty enough. Kimberly, come on.
No.
Ashley, there's an app for this, and I want you to sit up here in this picture.
Are you gonna make how are we gonna make you look better? How can we make you look better?
Oh,
want me to stand behind you, I suppose?
Perfect, right there.
Did you do that, Joe?
Yes. Okay, smile, don't talk, hold on. Perfect.
Yay, thank you. Awesome, thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Just a couple of things what Tim was saying, and Kelsey knows it from being on the DDA board, and Ashley does, of course, too, that there's a lot of people that do these things. Obviously, Kelly's been the superstar. Kim's been really great at doing a lot of things, too. And even Mr. Medora over there has helped on occasion. I didn't recognize him with the tie, so bear with me on that. And I just, as I say, it takes a lot of folks to do these kinds of things. So anyhow, thank you very much, Tim. Really appreciate you coming out here, and Tim's support too, especially about 6-7 months ago when we had a rough patch there. So acknowledge that, and I greatly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Whoops.
Thank you so much. Okay, the second presentation, yep, right up. Genesis Credit Union is doing a presentation with Nora's Bridal.
So thank you again. One of the other really nice and enjoyable things about my job is that through the help of really great partners like Genesis Credit Union, we get to put money into the hands of local businesses. This is very rewarding, and I'm always happy when I can come out and do these check presentations. Just a little history, the Main Street Oakland County has partnered with Genesis for 4 years now, is it?
I'll go with that.
Okay. And we put, through a generous grant from Genesis Credit Union and then some money from our budget, we're able to put this together to create a program to award grants to startup businesses, younger businesses who are looking for some help because we see the prospect of how successful they can be. And we take it serious. There's a pretty in-depth review process that we go through all the applicants. And Nora's Bridal was a really good application and a really strong candidate. And I know you plan on using the money for a lot of increasing your online presence and marketing, which is going to be great. We think that'll really increase your exposure and hopefully really grow your business. So that being said, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So I wanted to give you just a little bit more information about what this program actually is and how this is a really big deal that they won this. We get applications from all over the county, and like Tim said, those all come into our committee and we all review them. And this one just came right to the top instantly. So what we look for, not only startup businesses or new businesses, but we look for an application that feels like it's not just going to help the business right now, but it's something that's actually going to take this business forward and really grow inside of the community. And that's what they presented. You guys did a great job. You could see like what your vision was, and like Tim said, I hope the website is as successful as it looks on paper. Other thing I wanted to mention, just, Genesis Credit Union is a great partner with this community. We really appreciate all of your support. We have 33 branches, so we're in every community, but this community really has such great organizations to work with. Your chamber is so solid. It's great to work with them. Same thing with your Park and Rec department. So you guys should just really be proud of everything that you're doing here. Thank you.
Congratulations, thank you.
Get all the pictures.
You guys want to talk?
Oh, no, thank you.
Can I get a photo really quick?
I don't have a Genesis logo.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's for display.
Thank you so much.
Okay, agenda item 6 this evening is call to the public. So this is a time where the public may approach the podium. You can voluntarily state your name and address and address council on any topic that you'd like council to be aware of. And each person has an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to speak under public comment? Okay.
Is now when I talk about the rental residential ordinance?
Sure, yep, absolutely, please.
Here are my notes. I am Major Murray. I do not live in Oxford Village. I own properties in Oxford Village. And so I am a person who has high taxation without representation in this village. The residential rental ordinance that is being considered, and I'm not sure if it's passed yet, I hope not, I think is misguided. And here's why. First thing is, I wonder, what is the theory of governance or government that you're applying when you're considering this? Or better put, what is wrong with Oxford that you need to do this to fix it? This is a pretty good place, and we don't need to do things that they're doing down in Berkeley or in Highland Park or those areas that already have these ordinances. And they have no higher safety than we do. They have no higher, in fact, probably much lower. So I think public safety is not a valid issue for it. Another reason it's not valid is if you were using public safety, you would apply it to every residential door in the whole village. Owners' lives matter too. So it's not just renters' lives that matter, everybody's lives matter if safety is your reasoning for doing it. So perhaps we can put that aside. So what's the other type of thing that you may want to do it? Maybe anti-blight. We don't really have a lot of blight, but you already have the means to enforce that. You have codes you can enforce. We have permitting, we have inspections. You don't need another tool to make Oxford pretty. Oxford's pretty. And again, it wouldn't be something that applies only to the rental residential, but also ownership residential. So you may as well inspect everybody if you're going to be fair and equal to every address in the village. Insurance companies, they care probably as much, if not more than you do, of whether my electricity is up to date or anything like that. And if there were any evidence that this had good outcomes, my fire and my police millages would need to go down because safety's gone up. We're not calling anybody for emergencies anymore. The last thing is profit. I must show profit. First of all, it's because this is my retirement plan as these residents. So I can't pay this. I don't have any money. It comes from the renters. So this is a direct pass-through to the renters. They're going to pay it for two reasons. One, I have to show the IRS I am showing profit. I cannot show losses on these. This is going to be a cost, and I have to pass it through. The only question is, how do I pass it through? Do I say, $50 a month on every renter in these times? You guys are suffering as much as anybody, I believe. Maybe not as much as renters now. Secondly, I have to show the IRS I'm making money because I can't make a loss on any property. They come after me very quickly after I do that. So I have to collect money in excess of my expenses. So this is a direct pass-through. The only question is, do I hand them the bill for the inspectors and my handyman that has to go in with the inspector, and then the re-inspection, and then all the upgrades? People who have these show that about $1,500 per inspection. You've proposed about every 2 to 3 years. About $1,500, that's $500 a year rental increase that you're imposing on every rental resident by this ordinance. I don't see the screaming need for that. I hope you don't either.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, there's another opportunity for public comment later in the agenda at item 11. Okay, we will move forward then with the consent agenda, item 7A, receive and file items. Is there a motion for 7A?
Make a motion to file the 7A correspondence I'm not doing this one. 1 and 2, sorry. First time trying this one, sorry.
Nope, you got
Second.
it. You got it. Motion made by Bourgeois, seconded by Ross. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nay? Okay, motion
I did have
carries.
one question.
Sure.
It doesn't affect anything. Just with the, I didn't see an ordinance report, and is that just because of?
Like an ordinance person?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. That was my assumption. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, 7B, is there a motion to approve item 7B?
I will make a motion to approve 7B items 1 through 3 and the bills in the amount of $440,426.22.
Support.
Great, motion made by Ross, supported by Bourgeois. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Bourgeois? Yes. Helmuth is absent. Ross?
Yes.
Kemp? Yes. Cook?
Yes, motion carries. Number 8, unfinished business, old business. First is the residential inspection ordinance, number 418. This is discussion on the draft ordinance. So, and then there's kind of a little I on that as well, which we can talk about probably right after we talk about the ordinance. So I just wanted to mention that I wasn't in attendance at the last meeting, but since then I did get a chance to kind of go through and just make some organizational changes to the way it was proposed, and Bob agreed with my changes, so that's the copy you see here. So I wanted to at least be able to read it and have each part kind of make sense to me. I still have a lot of questions about it, but they're kind of the same questions I've been asking. So any comments from council or questions for?
I still have a really hard time with this. I believe the registration process that we put in place already, I like that. I like the questions it's asking. I mean, the point that I've been told to this is safety, making sure that there's, proper electrical and the house isn't gonna burn down, but then when I look at what we're inspecting, it just seems like your normal HUD type of things. I just don't see why we need it, and I have a hard time approving it. Yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. Not so much questions, just I don't have a lot of feelings about it.
I think you all know that I feel strongly for this. Our fire department has asked for it. Lots of communities have this here, other places it's not just Berkeley, and yes, I am a renter. I do know how hard it is to rent right now. And I've shared with my story before of my very good landlord. I had a circuit breaker, was completely fried and recalled decades ago. So I think a second set of eyes, no one had been in that house, no one had peeked at those things. I do think it's a good idea because it is a business. And if you are selling it as a product, I think people deserve a right to have a basic expectation of safety. This is not new. This is something many communities have, who are, what we're looking at would be much less than other communities in our region that they have on the books. There are a few things I would like to add, simple, like I would like to have it safe egress on there. CO2 or carbon monoxide still isn't on this copy. I would like something peeked at in terms of electrical. We don't need to go through and make sure it's up to modern code. I know that a lot of safe houses have knob and tube. That is not what I want to go and dismantle, but I want something at least peeked at. And I don't know how, and I know with Roe doing it, that would be, but if,
McKenna.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
yes, McKenna, if we were to bring back, oh my lord, his name escaped me.
Dan?
Dan.
Starts
Yes,
tomorrow.
yes.
Starts tomorrow.
Okay. If we went that route, I would like something there that would be at least peeked at. The last thing I think that I had on there, any deck, railing, or porch more than 30 inches off the ground must have a code compliant guardrail. Something Joe Frost, I can't remember what he said now. Something Joe Frost said is like itching my memory. Something about historic homes normally don't come up to that height. I don't want to go reinvent the wheel with the porches as long as they're safe.
Right. That's, I think, more of a building code thing. There's two different codes that these people with older homes can go by. You have
Okay.
the normal residential code and then there's historical code. I think is that what's referred to as a historical code. And for those buildings, they can be in compliance with different standards.
Okay, as long
The
as,
building
yeah,
official
I
will
don't want to
make-
go reinvent, you know.
Sometimes they want to put their spindles on the porch historically
Yeah.
accurate, but they're too wide to meet today's standards. But if they go under the historical code, they can do that. But they can't toggle back and forth between them. If
That's,
you want to go historical code in this house, that's it. That's fine. But, so there are exceptions to something.
yeah, I
that
don't,
30-inch thing.
I want to make it very clear
If
that
it's
we
different
may
in
not
historical
need to.
code, that code would comply.
Yes.
Would be okay.
um,
And I apologize for not having the carbon monoxide
That's
things in there.
okay, that's fine.
I know
didn't
it was there. I know it was on our list to be there, but it.
Yes.
And then the electrical, I see the 60 amp minimum service is what was.
Okay,
I doubt there's any house in the village with something different than that, but we don't know. We don't know.
but honestly, my greatest, I've been in a lot of apartments in this town. A lot of them are, everything doesn't need to look pretty and fancy, and everyone had their first endearing experience in their first apartment, but I do think safety needs to be a priority, and our fire department asking for it cements my decision.
You also raised an issue of an appeal process,
Yes,
and
I would definitely want an appeal
I
process.
may have, after further research, I need to correct what I said. I thought maybe you could use your ZBA process. That will not work. Under state law, the ZBA can only hear issues related to decisions made concerning the zoning ordinances. This will not be a zoning ordinance. So we met on that, and we thought that we would follow a procedure used, for FOIA disputes and other issues where if somebody's aggrieved by a decision made under this ordinance, within 30 days they file a written appeal to the village manager, who puts it on the next council agenda. Then we can nip it, hear it, understand it, and make a decision on it without dragging people through a lengthy hearing process.
Absolutely, there needs to be an appeal.
So we would amend to put that process in there.
Also furnace inspection, sorry.
I think it's on there.
It is on there? Maybe perhaps I
Yeah, think
overlooked
was
it.
the first one.
And that's a separate person.
Yeah.
It's on here, but that's
Yeah.
like.
Okay,
Page
I'm
two.
sorry, my
A
mistake.
separate
104
HVAC person to come out, minimum now is probably $150 to $300. Additional beyond this other fee. These are the things that concern me about it.
Ross, do you want to speak on it?
Yes. I don't think I have anything new to necessarily express. I think these are all valid and understanding. I completely understand all of your concerns, Allison. I do think that this is an overreach, and I struggle with this list, and I've been struggling all along. We've renovated a home that we would love to rent out at some time in the future, and we're just not going to ever be able to comply to make that even a reasonable thing. And so I can see both sides of a landlord. I can see it as a renter. I can see it as a homeowner. And I think we just implemented the registration process. I would like for us to wait and see how that goes.
When did we first send out the
Well, there's-
registration forms?
I believe it was end of May. Middle of May. I think it was right after our May meeting. We sent them out within a couple of days.
And we have about half.
I'd say about a third. If you look at the last page 4, I almost didn't print page 4 because there really wasn't much there, but it did give the totals. On the very left side, there's 126 addresses, whether it's a single family or Oxford Apartments over here that has, 400 units. So there's 126 addresses, and we looked to the right on page 4, 38 have returned. So just under a third. You'll see that some of them are 3 or 4 or 5 units owned. So if 4 or 5 more people were to respond, we might get 20 more out of that. That 38 could go to 58 easy if there's, because some of them have multiple units or multiple properties.
It's about a third.
So, yes, Mr. Murray, I've never met you. My name's Joe. We've spoken on the phone many times. He's always been good to work with. He recently, in the last year or so, bought a couple other properties in the village. We've never discussed this. I'd say we've never met, but I don't even know how we heard of this. Perhaps it was in the paper. I don't know. That's all you need, right? Yeah, so you'll see he's listed on here as well. Again, this was our first mailing. We didn't do any follow-up mailings. That, of course, is Plan B, that we can do that. It's relatively simple. We have all the addresses, it doesn't cost much to send them out. We could work on that registration throughout going forward. We will, no matter what, right? Because this is what gives us the avenue to communicate with those landowners.
So my concerns are kind of the same that I've expressed in the past too, is I just don't see that this is implementable, given our resources at the village. We don't have great resources to be able to take something like this on. Even being able to do inspections on, mechanical and electrical inspections as it is. I've had to have them at my house when I installed the new furnace, and I mean,
Pretty small windows.
It's very small windows, and it takes a very long time to get it done, and so that's kind of, I see this as the same thing, so I don't know who's gonna do this. So obviously, that's gonna drive the cost up, just because there's the labor shortage to get it done. And so I am worried about, the cost to the landlords and to the tenants. I do believe, like Mr. Murray said, that it'll be passed through, because, and I know at least one of my other council members who's not here today will disagree with this statement, but I just don't see residential properties as huge money makers, because I know how much maintenance it takes that goes into a home, and so and a lot of them have mortgages on them as well, and a lot of them are just using the rent that they get to pay all the bills and maintain it, and then kind of every time there's a new tenant, there's huge expenses as well to get the house ready for the next tenant, and so where there's already a affordability issue in housing. I think this will increase that in the village. And then 2, I do have, I do have consideration for the eviction moratorium that happened during the pandemic. And just that the landlords were paying, some people didn't pay, couldn't pay, didn't pay, whatever it is, everybody's situation is different, but the landlords had no relief at all for that, and we're essentially paying for people to live along with their own families to live. So that's kind of where I'm at still. And we talked about our code enforcement officer taking this on, but what happens when he's just one person as well, and what happens when he retires permanently and doesn't keep coming back to us? So
He's third round.
yeah, just lots of concerns there. So. Can I move into a little I too?
Just they're still related.
So the reason that this one is on here is because we just haven't had a lot of public feedback. We've heard from a couple of landlords who've attended meetings, and obviously another one tonight. But I really don't know what the feeling is in the community about an inspection ordinance, and that goes for the tenants as well. I mean, for some tenants, they may want to just be left alone and have their privacy and not have the inspections, and it takes time out of their day too as a tenant in the property to get this done, and their time is valuable too. And so I would want to hear, if this were to move forward, I'd want to hear more from really a lot more people in the community, because I feel like it is a big decision that's going to impact a lot. And so Joe and I talked about he mentioned we could even send out a survey to every rental address, the landlord's address that we have on file, just to kind of get and actually solicit individual feedback to see where everyone is at. You know, I don't know, and I know too, like our village council meetings, you know, we post on Facebook and we have the agendas online, but a lot of people in the community have no idea what we're doing. And I'm grateful for OCTV and the YouTube channel, because at least people can follow along with us now. But this is, like I said, just a pretty big decision I think we need more input on. However, I don't want to use our time if it's not going to move forward based on council's potential vote anyway. And I'm kind of sensing that it wouldn't move forward at this time, so I don't know that we should put time into hearing more about it, but I'm interested to see what other council members think about that.
I think it could be fairly split. I wouldn't mind doing a survey, because we haven't heard from any renters whatsoever throughout this process. Because I feel like if there was a big call, like, yes, something's happening in the village that we need to address, then I think that would help clarify. We've heard from landlords. Their stance has been pretty solid and consistent throughout, but this also does affect renters, and without that voice, I don't think I can make an informed decision.
And when Kelsey brought this up to me last week, that, you know, perhaps we should find a way to do that. A good survey with 4 or 5 just real simple questions that they can answer. They can email them, they can put them in our Dropbox out there, whatever. You know, what do they think? What do they think the need is for an inspection? You know, how, like 1 through 5, what do they think how would this affect them for their privacy, or do they think how would they rate the safety needs? Perhaps some of them are in the same spot with a great landlord, and they think they have no issues at all, and so they might have their own skewed opinion one way. And it's hard to say what we'll get back. There's a fair amount of transiency, right, in that youngsters, mid-20s, whatever, they come and go, so who knows? They might, by the time they mail it into us, they might be gone the next month.
While I hear what you're saying with that, trends are showing that there are going to be more people renting because just home ownership is out of their hands, out of their reach. And there was federal funds available for landlords. I'm sorry, I just looked it up. I don't mean to.
No, that's fine.
I certainly don't mean to.
But not from the start. I mean, not
I do understand, but I just don't want to sound antagonist by any
fine.
means. But yes, I don't. People did not. A third of people responded to the registration. Yeah, I think the surveys would be a good idea, but I would want to make sure they.
I feel like they should be delivered directly to the addresses.
The address themselves, not, yes.
Right, so I would target the renters at the unit, but also, why not send one to the property owner?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because I think we have, Mr. Murray, we have his addresses where his properties are, and I believe for water billing or whatever reasons, or taxes, we have your address, for instance, and same with many of them.
You know, I could possibly be okay with this more if it was when a new property becomes a rental property, we do something like this, or when a new renter comes in, we do something like this, and it would be a one-time fee that the property owner would add into their last month deposit kind of thing, versus this you have to do it now within the next so many months, and you have to do it every 3 years. And just the things on here, to me, this isn't gonna save somebody from their, this isn't gonna save somebody from the total house destruction that I'm being told that the point of this is whether they have GFI protected within 6 feet. I understand there can be issues with that, but at the same time, we're going through and replacing adding a handrail. It just seems to be, these are things that, depending on who goes out there to inspect, you can get different results from every inspection and what's a fail and what's a pass, and it's just so, it's not consistent enough. I have a lot of concerns with it.
I mean, what's the like realistically? I mean, I don't want to pass something that we can't manage, and that's just a flop, and it's like, oh, well, you know, it says this, but we can't meet it anyway. So like, how would this even work? You know, like I just, even talking to McKenna, like I just still have no idea.
And I've not heard from them since they spoke here.
Okay.
Well, I take that back. We did a follow-up conversation on the phone, and I expressed to them, well, send me a little scenario of how this would tie together, perhaps with the code ordinance, and that person perhaps also doing rental inspections while they're here, like our building official is here, but our building official is only here 2 hours on Tuesdays and 2 hours on Thursdays. That person's not able to do any rental inspections, and we don't need a certified building official level person to do it. It can be someone else who's trained on just these half a dozen or 8 items. Yeah, our staff is very small. I didn't like the idea of McKenna's idea of putting, well, we'll charge $175 to $200, I think is what they threw out. And if they fail the first one, we have to come back, the next covers the next one. I'm like, well then, if that covers 2, why should we charge enough? Why don't we charge 75, and if they need a second one, it's 75 more. Because if you go out to somebody's house and it's fine, and everything's good, why should you have the extra one built into there? So that was an issue too, just to help keep the cost down. But those follow-ups, appointments,
We
it's
could,
difficult to manage.
we could also use some of the ARPA funds that would help.
The village ARPA funds?
Yes.
For the most part, those are, I think, being used in our Hudson Denison project. Yes, it was a small.
But that would give relief to those who are the landlords and those who are more vulnerable in our community.
So you might be able to say, let's say it's $125 for inspection, and
You could
there's 100 of them, that's 12 grand, 12.5 or something. You could say, well, the first inspection's on us, so to speak, I suppose.
For how long? Just
Yeah,
the
we're still,
initial?
we're still sticking them with them in 3 years. They have to
Right.
do the same thing again. For HVAC, it's hard to get somebody out when your AC or furnace blows. Now you're trying to get them out to do 126 inspection. Oh, actually, it's what, 400 and something.
The ones at Oxford Apartments over here, I've talked to the fire department too, they don't go inspect they inspect the hallways for certain things. That would be more like, okay, they have 40 of these units that are 1 bedrooms, they have 40 of these that are 2 bedrooms, and they're all built the same or similar. We would expect maybe a couple of that style each year, and if you see the same thing, here's the fuse box, here's the their smoke detector layout and stuff in each one, and everyone's like that. It wouldn't require us to go and do every single unit in that complex because it's large and it's repetitive. And that particular complex almost could be exempted as far as the fire department's concerned because they know everything about it. They already inspect the common areas as well. So it's kind of silly to have to inspect them because they're already built for commercially built, following commercial code, getting fire inspections.
I'll just put it out there. I don't see myself ever voting a yes on this. I think the registration's great. I think we asked the fire chief exactly what he wanted and we put it on the registration. I think we should get more persistent about getting the registration responses. That's free to everybody, and it's asking them just to give us that information. Verifies the smoke detectors, and I believe we have the CO2s on there.
I don't know if CO2 was on that one.
Yeah, I think it was.
Okay, I know the smoke
Probably
detector
at
was.
that,
I mean, I don't, when they first went out, I don't know if it was on.
Not
I'm
CO2.
sorry.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
we
I keep
always-
saying.
Breathe out CO2.
Yeah, we want the yes.
Every one of my units.
Yes.
Thank you.
We do want to,
My
I
husband's
want
probably
more of
watching
it.
it.
Carbon monoxide.
yeah, monoxide we don't like.
My husband's probably watching it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna tease
You're
him.
not the only one who said it.
My husband's HVAC.
I always
He's gonna be
misspeak, I'm
so
sorry.
mad at me. But yeah, I can't see myself, I mean, just putting it out there, I can't see myself 100% voting yes on this. Just, sweet, I don't know.
discussion, wasn't any action, there was more of
Right.
the survey thought was
We're
new.
not on a first reading now.
No, I think I just want to get direction on whether we want to do the survey or not. So I'm with Lori. I'm not going to vote for it either. So it really comes down to Ashley. If you,
No, I don't think, you're not scheduled for a first reading.
I thought we had done a first reading.
We were scheduled
months
for
ago.
discussion last time, but we wanted to wait for your return and then, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily do, well, the surveys never hurt, but I don't know if I would do them if you're not going to vote for it anyways.
right. Well, I think it comes down to, not to put the pressure on Councilperson Ross, but I think you're the swing vote. And so if you want to do the survey, I think it's worth it. But otherwise,
No
I
pressure.
don't.
Well, what about Maureen? What about,
She's going to vote
Maureen
yes.
will vote yes.
she's in favor?
I think she is. Mhm.
At this point, no one's knocking down our doors saying that this is an issue. Slumlords are gonna slum. Do we have them? Yes. Do we know about them? Yes. From a life and safety standpoint, I think what we were trying to accomplish at the very beginning of this year was to at least know where our rental units were and who was where so that fire and police could save lives if need be. So at this point, unless there was somebody coming knocking at the door, I don't think we would need to move forward with the survey right now, in my opinion.
Okay. Any other discussion on number 8A?
I just wanna, there are ways that renters, if they have a concern about their property, they can let us know or let someone know and have it reviewed.
But,
I'm not making that up, right?
well, when there was a home that ended up being condemned, the fire department had to really go and fight to get it condemned when there was an issue where they couldn't get, the staircase was too wobbly, that they couldn't send men up the staircase. They had to have someone walk down who was having an emergency. And that house took months and months of time for the fire department to say was unlivable.
So if there's something that I would,
That's due process.
yeah, if there's something that I would support, it's making it easier for, a renter to make a complaint and for a, owner to appeal and go through a process then, a complaint brought to bring up something. I mean, there's already things for that. So I don't think going into every home in our community is needed.
I think the relief is through the district court, and I hate saying that because
Yeah.
I know that, like, it takes money to file something, but if a tenant had an issue, they could file a claim in the district court for, the house isn't suitable to be lived in, and therefore they can get out of their lease or not pay the rent and have the landlord come into compliance with making sure it is livable. So that's just off the top of my head. There's some, resource out there, and there's, everything costs money, right? But there's something, so.
Yeah, these
Do
property
you
owners.
think that we could research these avenues and put them on our website, the rights of renters in Oxford? Here's a state agency, here's a county program, here's,
I think doing
You're
something,
right.
some type of outreach like that and showing that, hey, property owners, this is how, let's open our communication. If you're not communicating with us, yes, renters, this is your avenues you can take if you have concerns. Making known, we get strange complaints. I mean, Terry and Joe get strange complaints constantly, and that's without telling people.
I often find myself saying, what?
Yeah, and that's without telling people, you can, we're here, we'll listen to you. So, I mean, even just saying, hey, this,
It's possible the county might have some resources too. I know for the home improvement program is out there, but that's for owners. I don't know, perhaps I could dig into the county agencies more to see what
Or
is
the
out
state.
there.
I think that would be
Could
helpful.
we have a presentation? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Could we have a presentation of what those options were and realistically
Yeah.
how much money they would cost if they needed to,
Yeah.
including time off,
Yeah.
if they were.
And from a staffing standpoint, I think we could say, whoever our manager is, if somebody came in the door, whether you be that person or not, that you would be responsible for helping them find resources. because you're not just gonna say, sorry about your luck. Like, that's not
Right.
how we're going to operate as a village.
No, we'd always try to point them
Why
in
don't we
directions.
take a look at what programs are available that people would call?
Maybe there's a wheel out there, we don't have to reinvent one, type thing, that's what you're saying?
Right.
So, yeah, we need to look up, let's see, county, state, and make them more in the front, available, I guess. Maybe we'll share it with you guys, if there's somebody at the county level that was willing to come out and talk, explain to that. I know there's renters, Bill of Rights, renters' rights programs out there. How entangled they are, and how hard they are to get into the program, I don't know.
So maybe we should just leave this agenda item and no action is required, and pursue some of these other thoughts. And
We'll continue on the registration thing and do a second mailing and try to get that up to date.
Sure.
Yeah, I
Regardless-
believe in the
regardless,
registration thing. I
That's
think
already
it's a
in
great
process.
program it answers the questions that our fire chief wants, and it's not
Yeah.
invasive. And I think right now what you've got landowners who are, property owners who are concerned about what's gonna come down the line after that process, and do I really want to, I don't trust you right now to do this. We put it out there, I mean, and I get that. At this point in time, we say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're asking because it's what our fire chief wants, and this is all we're gonna be asking of you. We're gonna communicate, how, the rights of a renter within the village, and that's it. I am fully supportive of that. And I think you'll get more, and if we.
so you might as well register while you're here.
Would appreciate
That
it.
can't be answered.
I'm just teasing.
Truthfully. The dimensional ones, that's all one of them. The other is it says, what's the maximum number of people? I said, I've never tried, I don't know.
Yeah, that party, huh?
Okay.
And they don't know it about every owner house either. That's the same thing goes to every owner house. The fire chief is just, he's not right.
We understand your point.
Okay, any other comments on that agenda item before we move on? Okay, so let's do 8B, lawful use of public funds, opinion memo, follow-up. Mr. Davis?
Well, I often get to be the bearer of interesting news. From my viewpoint of this, I think you're on shaky ground using public funds for non-public purposes. What I do think you can do is you can find a way to turn this into some public purpose, working with your police chief through the use and dedication of money that benefits the department as a whole, in some other way. And maybe we can talk to the police chief about that, but it's kind of in conflict with your charter. I'll tell you that right now. Your charter is, I think it almost tells you what restaurants you can go to. The wording in your charter, I think, runs a little bit afoul, as do many provisions in older charters, of the current legal requirements on using public funds for non-public purposes. So I would caution against dedicating money for, appreciation dinners or things of that nature. We already talked about the bonus issues, which affects union negotiations, because I think it becomes a baseline for bargaining. You were willing to give them another $1,000, so whatever their salary was, it's now $1,000 more. And that's where the chief, that's where everybody then starts the bargaining. But Chief, maybe you could leave tonight with some thought processes on what we want to show. The board is anxious, the council is anxious to show appreciation for your wonderful efforts, which, have always been true, but more noticeable lately. What is it we could do for the department? Oh, you already got an idea? That was quick.
I've got a simple answer, and I want to make this real easy for you. Good afternoon, everybody. You have to do exactly what you're doing now, and you're supporting us. Do nothing more. We really just, when Joe first told me that you guys were interested in doing something nice for the police department because of everything that we've been doing, everybody's been kind of in a crazy place these last couple of years with a lot of things that's been going on. So we're kind of in the same boat with them, but this is a service that we provide and we're proud to do that. And when I go home and I tell my wife, the council wants to do something nice for us, they're just appreciative for what we're doing, I take that back to my guys and they appreciate that. So nothing more really. We really do appreciate it. So I'm just ecstatic about the just the idea of it. So, but thank you. Yeah, I don't want to make this any difficult for you guys or anything like that. So
It's a thought that counts. you
yeah,
said.
yeah, yes.
Well, I
So
mean,
just keep supporting us and we'll keep working hard and doing our thing and working with everybody.
Blame Bob.
That's just what we do.
No, what a party pooper.
Hey, it's a good thing as a police chief, but I
I
can
thought you were gonna say,
Yeah.
how about a weight training
Yeah.
room? You already
We can all
have
get
one?
together.
Is there anything we can do, is there anything we can do to enhance your workout programs?
Well, certainly, yes, we can all take walks together and social districting or whatever you
Oh,
want.
you
to
have a
do.
training facility, right, a little?
We do down in our basement, yes. Yeah.
So just give it some thought on something that we could take, what otherwise money we were thinking of, and allocate it towards a legitimate public purpose to enhance your department. Don't dismiss it yet.
Sure, yeah. And just don't bring us any donuts or anything, and that helps out.
Apparently we can't.
Buy you a treadmill and donuts.
I cut that off, Chief.
In all seriousness, no, we really do appreciate it. I mean, we can sit down and play Monopoly together. I don't know, but we really do appreciate it. But don't make it difficult on yourselves, and just know that I take that back, and everybody knows how appreciative you guys are, and we're gonna keep doing what we're doing above and beyond. That's what we do. So, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I would just wanna say, I think we have a free and obvious public way to show our appreciation, which is just, we have somebody who handles our social media and just making sure that we highlight, our police department at least once a month or so, and, you know, I see, when the police department shares when a resident comes by and brings them something special or does something with them, and just simply seeing that, sharing it, I think it goes far, and you see the appreciation that comes through it and flows back to them.
There's an entire side of your police department that you don't see often, and that is through the court system and the prosecutions. And I manage those in many communities, and the files that are obtained here and the level of detail put into the prosecutions you never see. Although I think the chief knows it's always very good. It's always better to be in the district court with a good file than one that's on shaky wheels, right, chief? Or-
Absolutely. Yes, we were just at our annual 52-3 district court meeting.
Right.
And no fingers were pointed at us, I'd like to say.
They never are, and so that's an avenue, you don't even see. Although I had kept the statistics for a while, I'll check on them for you. I mean, when you get a legal services invoice and it has, part of it's broken into prosecution fees, I think you'll see that, and it's not the goal, but it does happen in this community, that your cost recovery through the court system is greater than the fees it takes to prosecute.
By far, I think, by far.
Which is a, it shouldn't be your measuring stick, and the police chief and I have talked about this before, we're not in the prosecution business to make a profit. However, if you're prosecuting well, and you're prosecuting good files, the return from the court system on the penalties and the fees and the costs, can offset your legal fees associated with prosecuting, which you do. So when you see that invoice, just you need to understand it's being offset, I think, by almost sometimes double.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting back those legal fees plus because of the quality.
It's quality on the street and the quality in the files.
Right.
What we are.
I do appreciate you, Bob, going through this and making sure we don't break the law to support our law. That was very,
some irony
honestly,
there.
I know there was a lot there, but I mean.
One of those memos where I'm like, oh shit.
I I kind of laughed. I read through it and I'm like, 1, 2, 3. How many pages of this? And I don't know what it says. And then there's like a paragraph, and I'm like, oh, that's what that's about.
Well,
You gave us all
I'll
kinds
take
of-
that as a compliment. Sure. No, I mean, there's a lot of, we don't have to talk about it right now. When I give you a memo, I'm hoping that it lasts a while. So when this question comes up, I can say, remember that memo on public purpose?
I have a question about something else, and the answer's right there already. So
Right.
it's you give us everything we would need for it.
Kelsey, I have a question, which is semi-related because it was brought up. Do we have an update on updating our charter at all, or what that's going to take?
It's still in process.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I think they originally said it would be like October timeframe, maybe fall. before
Okay.
they
Thank
have
you.
anything for us.
All right.
Formerly known as Unicode.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't remember what they're called nowadays.
they got a new name.
Okay, any further discussion on item 8B?
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, on to number 9, new business, A, special events application, park reservation requirement, discussion.
So I put in the memo from last month, back in this month, because it was lightly discussed last month, and then Kelsey, you weren't here either, so, since then, we received yet another park reservation from Oxford School of Music for the recital in Centennial Park, and received their reservation form and their, deposit, and their, proof, I think for proof of insurance already, if not, so. Like, that process is, other than this June when that came up, it's never really been much of an issue, it's the insurance, because those particular young folks were in a spot where it was tough for them, or nearly impossible for them to obtain it.
Right.
Normally, that's not the case. Normally, they're pretty seamless, pretty straightforward. What I did throughout looking back at this was the first spring that I was here. I find it just ironic that for someone that just wants to rent the park, or not rent, to use the park, because we don't charge for it. For a private event, we get $100 deposit. But someone that's doing a large event with porta johns and 2 or 3 days of this going on, we don't get any deposit. It just seems to me the one that's more apt to have trash and debris left behind is a larger event. We should at least amend that and get a deposit on both. Because what happens if the DPW goes out there? As a matter of fact, the Goddard School, when they did their thing, they had signs in the park out there. The following Thursday, their event was Saturday. DPW, they were still there. DPW picked them up and threw them away. 2 weeks later, they're calling for their signs. But they were there for, 4 or 5 days after their event. So that was the one thing that came to light to me. I thought it's just kind of odd for someone that's going to do like a wedding proposal for an hour in the park. We have to get a $100 deposit on, but some larger special event application that could be going on for a day or two, even with like some of the church ones, we don't even get a deposit on for leaving the area picked up.
I thought it was the private events require the deposit, but the public events do not.
Right? Did I say it?
You said large and small, but
Well,
like the Goddard would be a private
Yes,
event. So
private are
should,
typically.
should they have had a deposit?
They did.
Oh, they did.
had-
Okay,
They had one.
gotcha. So do you want to change?
I just think on
For
the
public
special
events?
on the special event applications, the ones that rise to that, we should, they pay the $50 application fee, which helps cover administrative costs here and there. If you guys wanted to forego that fee, like I said, we do like 6 of them a year, $300, $400 a year won't make or break us. Because that was one of the concerns somebody had stated through emails and stuff too, that we shouldn't be charging for people to use public space. And it's the application fee is the only charge we have for it. We have no other fee. But if you wanted to forego that $50 application fee, that's totally up to you and council. Again, it would amount to $300 or $400 a year. But I think at the same time, we might want to amend that application to have the deposit of $100 similar to the typically smaller private events. They're not always small. Like say School of Music could have 40, 50 kids there doing recital. Goddard School, I'm sure, had plenty of parents and students there. But sometimes they're as small as a wedding proposal.
Does your application say anything about that you have to clean up and remove all belongings and property
I believe so, and yes, I believe it does. Especially on the rental one, that even specifically says if you leave trash in the park, then we may forego your deposit for that reason. But for the special event applications, which are typically larger, we don't have that same situation for the deposit, and they typically are cleaned up anyways. We've really never had an issue with that. The one that wasn't cleaned up well was all the rose petals everywhere from the engagement one. But a little leaf blower and that was gone.
They're biodegradable. Okay.
So that's my only thing on it is, the question why this came to us last month was, when do we need to have a reservation form or a special event application, or when is it just someone exercising their First Amendment rights?
So special event application is for public events, right?
Right.
And a park reservation's for private.
Correct.
And the private, we require a deposit.
Mhm.
I think there should always,
You
not for
should
private.
always get a deposit.
Yeah, I'm fine with the deposit for both. I think there should be, for the public event though, just a box you can check like you proposed. And I think it should apply to the application fee and the insurance requirement for hardship. And that way, and then two, with these, so going back to the March for Our Lives, the student event, it wasn't March for Our Lives, it was called No Future Without Today group. They, I think it's great that they came through our process and filled out the application, but I don't think they needed to, but I think that's their decision, right? So like if they were to have just shown up and done their event,
I think they'd be fine.
they could have done that. But because they came in to apply, that gives them a little bit more security in knowing, because then they communicate with us, like, is there something else going in the park that day?
That's the biggest reason
And
for
that
it.
was important to them, I think, because they wanted to use the gazebo, and there actually was another event scheduled for the same time. So I think it was to their benefit that they, they didn't have to come through our process, but I think it was to their benefit that they did. So I think that that's kind of, if some, I guess I don't want to put you, Joe, in the spot of trying to decide which ones need to apply or not. I think that should be their discretion, but they should know that here's the, if it's a private event, it's a public event, here's our requirements, and that kind of essentially reserves the park for you. Otherwise, it's not reserved, and you don't know
Right.
What you're gonna run
what
into.
you could run into.
And with that in mind, if somebody wants to just spontaneously show up and protest or rally, whatever you want to call it, I think it'd be nice if they could look on our website perhaps and say, oh, Let's Park is reserved that day for Goddard School, or Scripted Park's big enough where you could have a reservation over here, and there's plenty of space to do your thing 100 feet away. Where Centennial, of course, is so small, it's pretty much one event at a time, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Maybe,
Yes.
so I thought, well, maybe there's a way we could put our park reservation form on our calendar, on our website or something. The special event application, when it talks on our website, events, and you click onto it, it talks about this whole private event, park rentals and stuff like that. That's on there.
Okay.
We need to, I think, update those so they're more similar. They both require the application or the deposit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I appreciate that they came to us just so we would know what was happening. But what would our obligation be? Say a march happens and we already have a private event. We could just kick out protesters? Like, that doesn't seem realistic.
Well, I think, well, I don't know if you have a legal opinion, but I think, so if let's say those folks showed up that morning, they had no idea, they didn't check with us, and Goddard School is setting up at 11 o'clock, and these people are there, they showed up at 9 o'clock, and they're already going. Goddard School's gonna show up and say, well, hold on, we have this park reserved. Now we have a conflict. And then I'm sure the police would be called, and something would be figured out then, but now the person that planned and had something reserved, public or private, is like, so now we're an hour late and everyone's all upset because this is going on and we're having arguments or whatever. I think it's incumbent upon those who want to come to the park to be sure that it's not reserved.
I like the idea of the calendar, just a public calendar, and maybe not saying even what it is if it's reserved,
Right.
because for how many engagements we have
Yeah.
or whatever, I don't want to
Just
be like,
reserve.
you're getting it proposed to.
Oh, I'm coming to heckle that guy.
I was thinking on the application process, a couple different questions. One, can we put your event name on our calendar, or should we mark you as private on our calendar? And you've got the answer right there on your paperwork. You're asking them for it, and you know what to put on the calendar, so you don't go, well, Goddard, I always put their name, and then all of a sudden Goddard's like, why did you do that? You know, so
Yeah.
I think asking that right out front on that application, so that way when you update the calendar, what do you want me to put on the calendar for your name, private or something else?
Yeah.
And you've got that.
I think the question that you were getting at is, if we have a event going on and legitimate First Amendment protected speech is also working towards that same space, what are our rights to have those people removed?
Does that mean, does it automatically become a private space then?
No,
So-
therein lies what I think we were having a little bit of controversy with is the rights of a free speech activity versus, a scheduled private event on public property. That's what I think we're still grappling with, and I'm still grappling with the decision between what is protected free speech event versus an event. If I want to rent the park to have free pizza and give everybody a pamphlet on a cause that I believe in, do I really need your permission to do that, or is that a free speech issue that I'm entitled to?
Yeah. There's a lot of case law on this,
Yeah,
right?
there is. Oh, there is. Yeah,
It's just like every situation's a little bit different. I just don't see
it's a very fact-dependent analysis.
Right.
And I want to keep your administration from having to make those judgment calls where they're on the phone and they say, well, we view you as a private event, and the person is offended saying, no, I don't think so. That's why there's a lot of cases.
Yeah,
There's only
totally.
cases because there's lawsuits,
right.
right?
But there's
So-
a lot.
So people sue on this a lot.
Right. And I've read a lot of them, and so I know, like, for example, say that day Goddard is there, and then, or say the other group is there first.
Right.
We're not gonna be able to say you have to leave, there's a private event. I
'Cause
mean,
it's public
We can
property.
say it, but what are we gonna do about it? Is Chief gonna haul them away? No. I mean, yeah, it's a public park, so it's just gonna happen, right? I
We
mean.
won't ask you to.
It's a conflict. It's an inherent, it's just a conflict, and.
So,
Right.
I even thought after thinking about this, putting it on the website, maybe we should have a spot out on the park where it says park reserved and a sign goes up on it, park reserved, Saturday from 10 to 2. At least then if somebody's planning to go there, they can say, oh, well, somebody's gonna be here. They can still show up, I guess, but at least then they'll know, and if they're
Yeah.
respectful, they could say, all right, let's wait till they're done. I don't know.
There were two ifs there,
Yep.
and they're important.
Kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
courtesy is-
Doesn't mean that's gonna happen.
And,
Right.
But if they don't know, they don't know.
once you initiate an action to remove what could later be determined to be a right of free speech, I think you're in problematic territory.
Right, I agree.
That takes you to the point of us taking any type of fee and all that, because we've just emboldened that person who has rented that space to believe that they have full ownership of it, of a public space, and we paid for it too. And now you gotta get off this grass, it's ours right
So if you get rid of your application fee and just have a cleanup deposit,
Or warn them of the potential that this could happen and your money could be refunded.
Well, then we don't collect any fee.
just don't take an application fee, just demand a cleanup deposit.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm fine with getting rid of the application fee. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a public service.
Again, for $300 or $400 a year, it's problematic. So I
And
guess.
you don't have a lot, you don't necessarily, so far, you don't get a lot of these. We don't get.
There's one other one that came to me, and Mike and I sat down, called her, got her voicemail. A couple days later, she called me back. I was out on the job, missed her, so we've been playing phone tag about another one. Just wanted to know what our situation is. But so what you're describing is, let's say we had a a village hall where people have weddings and all this stuff. If someone rents that hall out, you're saying anybody can just show up to that wedding and go in there and start.
No, I think that's a reserved space. I think most of the case law falls on like
Open.
public parks, open
Open,
sidewalks
the fact that
and
it's
stuff.
open.
Which
Yeah.
most of the case law is on open property.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so if it's a building, you have
Maybe
that
we
right
put
to.
some sort of language in there that there's an understanding that you are in an open public space, and while
Yes.
you're there, like,
You know,
it's
we-
an open public space. I could show up in my bathing suit and stand in the background of your wedding if I wanted to. That's just how it is. I mean, that's
Hey,
a
let me-
risk you
let
run
me,
by getting
let me
married in
write
a
that
public
down.
park.
Do we have to pay for that? Where do we sign? What's your PayPal?
So perhaps for next month's meeting, we could have an updated special event application.
Why don't we work
waiving
on,
of the fee.
why don't we work on the form to
Yeah.
accommodate this?
Update.
Yeah, I just worry if we're taking all, doing all this, then we're just increasing the likelihood of a dispute if one comes, because
Yes.
that person now feels that they own that space for that
For that time.
Yeah.
Especially if someone are looking to antagonize is their goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I really don't, yeah.
Yeah, and then you get into the conflicts of a competing free speech. I mean, there are, most free speech cases involve two different opinions, right? Currently, we have lots of different opinions, and, you post that opinion X is going to be in Centennial Park on Saturday. You might reasonably expect opinion Y to potentially show up, which gives the chief a raised eyebrow.
Yeah, I would like, our first responders to know that something's going on, that they maybe should be there, and, the way they were, it was great, the way they were there that weekend, and, from both the county and the village, it was a great, service, and thank them. I know you had to bring some guys back and, from vacations, everything, and so it's just that the process as it has been up until now has been that kind of ownership type of
Right.
thing, and you need to do all these things for it. And while I understand asking for it, requiring it is a little bit of a different
Right.
thing, it is a public, and we need to be a little less set up for an ownership of it at that time versus hey, this is what you're gonna be doing, thank you for telling us, please clean up, if you don't, you're not gonna miss that.
And I think what Kelsey has been raising is the fact that some of these events, it's questionable whether they have to call us,
I don't think any of them,
or whether they can just appear on public property and do what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll be accommodating, hope that people have common courtesy, revise the applications as to what you think would work best for the village, and then we can talk about it
Waive the
next
fees.
time.
Okay.
We move the fees, but yeah, there's so many like what ifs.
It's a
and
good
just-
conversation.
There's
though.
no
Yeah.
final answer on those, so,
You gotta be home by 9.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any further discussion on this item? Okay. So next up is the Michigan Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. That is,
September, I think it is.
September, yeah.
Yes. These folks have done it in the past. They were very good at putting them up, very good at taking them down.
Credit from the
Um,
It needs more
I
work.
think it's been a year or
before
two
it's
since they have,
I apologize if you guys heard it.
but they've asked again, and they're way out in front. They're not last minuting
Was not
us.
ready for anyone's eyes.
So I would recommend that you guys allow them to do so, because they were very responsible doing what they did.
Okay. Did this issue come before council last time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Obviously, I have no problem putting them up. Last time when I was working downtown, I got constant questions of why those are there. How much signage do they put up about what they are for?
No, no, so
Can
did
we
any
suggest
signage.
they do that? Because I got constant questions of why we have blue ribbons up now. Last time.
This is along the same conversation we've been having.
So I don't know
Yes.
if we
do we just share
wanted
social
to,
media wise, what's,
yeah,
I mean.
or maybe
So what Bob was referring
make
to, I
a
think, is a slippery
suggestion.
slope.
Okay.
One group over another group.
You're a
Can
killjoy,
anybody
man.
put ribbons up?
I know. I feel bad.
we're allowing them to put ribbons on our public light poles? Do we have to
Yeah.
allow everybody?
I mean, we recently voted
We can't select.
not to have our blue and gold ribbons put back up in town.
True.
We voted no.
Yes.
And now we're gonna say we can put,
Well,
here's some
and then-
teal ribbons and those are okay. I mean, I feel like it's super subjective and
Mm-hmm.
I don't wanna get into that.
Conversation, we talked about them possibly doing it back again to celebrate the beginning of school, which
Which is the
is,
same time frame.
Same time.
Yep.
Mhm.
So the subjectivity and the selection process puts you in an awkward position.
Yet again.
Do they have to ask us? That's why I was wondering if it came from council before. I
On
mean-
this, they'd be hanging them on our public infrastructure.
Okay.
So if we went out there and somebody had something attached to our light
We'd
poles
take
without
it down.
permission, we would take it
We
down.
would take it down.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
I don't remember approving this before. I don't know if it did it.
Before your time, perhaps?
I think
It's
so.
been probably at least 3 years. I think it
Okay.
was like 18, 19, or.
I mean, just
19.
in a simple search.
She didn't come on council till 20.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different ribbons for different months.
Oh,
18, 19.
eight- 2018.
Yeah.
comma.
You made her sound pretty old, Joe.
This is a long time ago.
Just in that high low, Joe.
Kelly was already here.
She looks bad, day over 18.
She never looks a day
Time to
over.
get.
Okay, so yes, I believe it was prior to coming on to council,
Yeah.
prior to November 2020.
I mean, we could have ribbons up and down for every single cause all the time.
Yes.
I mean,
Again, this was pre-pandemic, pre-tragedy,
Yeah. I don't think
pre-protests.
I didn't look at that.
It was a different world then.
not that it's not a worthy cause, it is, but I
All
think
of them
our,
are.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it is, and our community is in a very different spot than it was
Yep.
at that time, and so I can't imagine tying ribbons in any other color than blue and gold at any point in time in our community in any near future.
You changed my mind, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that. I believe that at this point in time, this is something that should be reserved for local concerns. I fully support our residents saying, hey, yeah, come out and tie one on my
Sure.
mailbox, my tree, my whatever.
Absolutely.
But I think that our community just changed, and we need to be aware of that and keep these types of things down to our community. Now, if a student group came to us and asked for something, if things of that sort, again, in the community, I think that's who we need to be considering requests from, and it needs to be directly tied to the community to be considered, in my opinion.
I'm thinking, I'm sorry, I apologize, it's not a fully formed thought. Is there a bone we could throw them? Of like one place where they could put something, and it would be available to
Anyone else?
anyone else too?
You could designate a tree in Scripter Park or something, I suppose, or
Or we could
maybe.
make a proclamation, or,
So what do they want it to?
It's just, it's tie ribbons for awareness.
But they tied a lot of them last time.
they did
Yes.
tie a lot of them.
I like the idea of allowing them to share their requests with our residents to say, hey, can I come to your house and tie one on your tree or mailbox through some sort of
It's just hard for them to
means.
get permission of 50 people up and down the street versus 50 light poles.
Yeah, but
That's all I'm saying. For them, I doubt they would
I
even probably
understand.
attempt that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You all have good points, and that's the thing. It's a changed world from 2019 till now, especially in this town. So
contact a sub and see if a subdivision
Yeah, I-
will
Yeah.
come through.
I just,
Do you wanna come up, Kelly, to the podium?
I just do not, I don't want you picking and selecting causes that,
especially.
Can it just be an Oxford related cause? Like, can we be specific?
well,
Like,
what would that be?
I mean, very
From the
specific to our
community,
school
by the
colors.
community, for the community.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
three.
I understand it, but I mean,
And
what if somebody in Oxford really was propelling this cause?
I would use for the community.
Ovarian is not,
I think what I mean by that
Permeates
is
all communities.
town-specific causes. I get what, yeah.
No, I'm just telling you, it's a slope that you have to be careful with.
Yeah.
Can I just make a
Yep.
suggestion? Just because I totally agree with all of you, and I think we get asked, oh my gosh, how many requests a week, you know, that Joe and I get to our email, but just the thought would be if we wanted to send them home with residents, just to have a box when they come in to pay their water bill that can sit right there on the floor that says, if you want to take a ribbon for your house and support. I think that's a way that the village can still support them, but it's not necessarily letting them tie them on, you know, the light poles downtown. But I think we can set a box right there on the floor by the window, and they can grab one when they come in and tie it on their tree at home.
That's something
Would be
that
nice.
If a business wants
Good
to
idea.
put it up on
The
the
business
front
could do
door,
it
they can
too,
do that.
and I can send out, you know, the Facebook post to them.
I prefer that than on our.
Thanks, Callie.
So our current stance is no ribbon.
Do you have enough feedback to respond on this one, Joe?
Sure, I can absolutely respond to her with great respect and in a way that she understands council's
Yes.
thoughts on
Yes.
this.
Yeah, I mean, we've been asked even, you know, to adopt the Wear Orange Day, which we haven't even done yet, and, you know, so there's just so many requests, and,
Mhm.
you know, I feel like half of what Oakland County Board of Commissioners do is just like proclamations on different things that they support, and that's fine for them, but I think we have a lot of other business to attend to
Yes.
too,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
All right.
With regrets.
Okay, 9C Hudson Dennison update and pay application from Joe.
Just the pay applications, and the first one I approved because it was simply, first thing up the door, they were putting pipe in the ground, things like that. Now this is actual work, and it's rather large, and so I wanted to make sure everyone had it for them, and saw that it was a request to pay app. It states on here the retainage is kept, we keep a 10% retainage on all things till the project is over and completed. And then I did a part of my manager's report that I shared with you online, or email in front of you, is just kind of an update on it. It's not hard to update, but the thing is I have to update it often. Things change a lot with this project, and doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but it's becoming that way at times, and it's a little frustrating on my end. But, you know, it was a larger project. It was in the most difficult area it could have been, encompassing the busiest parking area is the southwest parking area. It has the least amount of spaces and probably the most demand on those spaces. And then when we start addressing and closing and alternating closures on various ins and outs of the parking lot, it's tough. Tough on the businesses, tough on the residents, tough on the workers, tough on the motorists. I think it's one of those things, once it's over and done, everyone's gonna be happy.
Yeah.
So glad, it's gonna look nice.
Oh, yeah.
There's been things that have been added in.
Yeah.
Like I said, you start digging up a road with decades old stuff below it, you never know what you find. And we found a few things that were needed.
That's the insertive valve, the change order.
Yeah, the insertive valve was one, it's like, well, if we don't have it, when we shut down to do switch over, we're gonna be affecting 50, 60 homes.
Right.
If we put it in, we're affecting like 6.
Yeah, that's worth it.
So that's why we wanted to do that.
So do you want council's approval for this pay order just because of the balance? Like,
Yeah, yes,
The
it's
amount?
nice. I mean, or council could say to me, look, we'll approve this, but as they come through, these are all of gone over and come to us after going through Row. Row's providing the cost breakdown on the spreadsheets, so it's their recommendation to pay it. It's all been scrutinized by them. Then I look at it and go through it. Council, if you wish to see one each month, I'll bring them to you, or you could say, you know what, as long as Row's on board with it, I'm on board with it, I could just give you a random tally or something. It's your pleasure.
It's
Are
a lot of
they
money.
taking all of this into consideration for the next jobs that?
Well, I don't think there wouldn't be another one like this,
Okay.
for instance. For instance, if we went down to Park Street and did a block of Park Street, they'll be here in a week. There's no curb on Park Street. We will very minimally, you know, there's one way out, one way in, it's residents only. There are some people who cut through, but when you're cutting out Park, you can easily go to Lincoln or whatever. You don't have 35 delivery trucks a week coming down Park Street. I mean, we could do a block on Park Street, like I said, and they'll be here and gone in a week.
It is an expenditure that you should be aware of and you should track. Whether or not, you know, you have to bring it to each meeting for review and approval, but I think it should be in your package.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it should be included in the reports, but I personally don't feel like we need
It
to.
doesn't need to be
review
an
and approve.
agenda item.
Right,
Right.
It could be in your consent agenda
right.
going forward.
What's the current timeline look like? Use your magic wand.
Paving next Wednesday, Thursday, blacktop. So, and that's got a difficult process into it too, with the base coat, then the top coat. You can't drive on the top coat until like 3 or 4 hours depending on the weather. So the whole plan is to do the top coat on Hudson Street, which will take out both entrances on Hudson and only leave the ones on Denison. Of course, the one on 24 is never affected. Then they could jump over and do Park Street while that's cooling down. Then when they come back over, they would open Hudson, and then switch over and do Denison and close both those entrances down. So it's this alternating entrances thing that's kind of flustered some motorists and some delivery people and stuff like that because they've had to alternate them.
It's definitely going to be Thursday, Friday.
No, definitely. I did not say that.
I was just thinking of.
It's the biggest problem is the scheduling with the Eastern Asphalt. You know, some of these things, like when they came to crush the crush and shaping on the streets, it's like if we didn't do it July 16th, they would have been back like August 30th.
Okay,
It's like, because that big crusher is booked around the state.
beggars can't be choosers. Okay.
Right, believe me, Monday, Tuesday was always our plan. Because it has to be back-to-back days, because they move in all the equipment. They're gonna do base coat one day, top coat the next. Monday, Tuesday is always the plan. So, if Wednesday, Thursday could happen, you know, there's weather, there's other issues that could push it to the following Monday, Tuesday.
I feel like you got an answer.
Yeah.
Built on quicksand.
Any other questions from council or comments?
I think 650 it was the original. Well, actually 690 I think is what we had budgeted, but it came in at 650 I think. Or may have been over 700 was our budgeted amount.
I know we budgeted way more than.
Yeah, it was like I think it was like 790. They came in at 650 because they were like 140 below our full budgeted amount.
Oh, I was thinking,
Park
this
Street.
is how bad I was thinking.
This
I was
includes
thinking
Park Street.
The little,
Little park.
Okay.
Little park.
I was thinking that little coat only, and I'm like, what?
No, this includes Park Street as well.
8:30.
Okay.
So I would say that in the future, this could be included in as a report in kind of a receive and file type manner, but if you want a motion on this one because it's an agenda item,
Sure.
we can do that. So I'd move to approve contractor's payment application number 2 in the amount of $175,738.15.
Support.
Any discussion on the motion? The roll call vote?
Kemp? Yes. Ross?
Yes.
Bordeaux?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Helmut? Absent.
Motion carries. Number 10, there are no items removed from consent agenda. 11, public comment. Anyone else like to speak under public comment? Feel free to approach the podium. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. NODA, Councilperson Bourgeois.
No July meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And Councilperson Helmuth is absent, who typically covers Planning Commission and Cable Commission. Joe, do you have any update on Planning Commission that council should be aware of? Or
I don't.
Terry?
No,
No meetings right now.
No
Just
meetings, okay.
Some of the site plans are just they come in and they're half baked would be rosy thing.
Good pun.
Still waiting.
Half baked, is that one of the applicants?
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah, it was teed up.
No, you definitely teed that up. Okay. DDA, Councilperson Ross.
So many great things, but we do have our 2 DDA employees, so I don't know if they want to take.
Do you want to defer to
I don't
them?
know. I would defer to them because there's so many good things.
Okay.
Go ahead. Get it, girl.
All right. So the DDA is working on a lot. I know our original agenda packet today had some bylaws that were in it. Those will hopefully come back in the next month or two. It's I didn't feel like it was ready for everyone's eyes quite yet, just based on typos and making sure things matched. But we're really trying to clean up the bylaws to be up to modern day standards. Like before, our bylaws dictated what events we could have, and we weren't even in compliance. So we're really working to try to streamline and make sure that is all looking good. What else is going on? So we have facade grants for the back entrances of buildings going on right now. We have received quite a bit of grant funding, so I think tomorrow is the official announcement, so it's not going to make the paper that was out today. So we okay. So we have received a Consumers Energy Grant. We're one of 2 communities in the state of Michigan to receive $250,000 to work on the back of the 4 quadrants. So a majority of the money, about $150,000 to $175,000, is going to go to the northeast quadrant, the space behind Red Naps, the Pregnancy Center, Nora's Bridal, and the community schools. Needs a lot of work back there. But the idea is that we're creating small, intimate spaces for to extend social district, but to also have places for people to come and stay and be welcoming, since the backs of the buildings are where most people are coming in, that it becomes a little bit more welcoming now that our front is looking really good after everything that we've done the last few years. So we did a little bit of semi-number crunching, and I think we're actually, I said on Monday that we were around 400,000. I think our total investment in this past 6 months between grant funding and donations and in-kind, we're actually closer to about $500,000 worth of investment. So lots of really great things happening. You might not see things going on right away because construction takes time in this world, but we're working on it. Tomorrow is the first farmers and artisan market in our new Washington Square space. So the ribbon cutting was supposed to happen today, but weather, and it did rain right at 5 o'clock. So I'm glad we did postpone it till next week. So we'll have an official ribbon cutting next week, Wednesday at 6 o'clock for Washington Square. There are some activities and places to sit right now out there, but part of the grant funding, we are applying for another grant too, will help even add more items to that space. So, what do you call it? Cornhole, different activities, fire chief's not here, a grill / fire pit.
Never say fire pit around.
The other night, he's like, "What? I think it's a grill. I think it's a grill."
You're gonna wake him up out of a dead sleep.
We did.
Yeah.
So there's just so many great things happening. Concerts in the park still happening every Thursday. The Stronger Together campaign, entertainment series, trolleys back up and rocking. So lots of exciting things happening.
Good report.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
And thank you to Ashley Ross for being the grant ninja.
Absolutely. Okay, Councilperson Kemp, Pollyant Trail.
Pollyant Trail did not meet this month, but on Saturday, August 27th is the 25th birthday of the trail. So there's going to be a birthday cake walk hosted by the trail, and oh my lord, the Oxford Women's Club is celebrating their 90th year. So there's going to be a walk starting at Way Station, which is over off of, oh my lord, the name of the street? Powell Street. Where the catch basin is, if that rings any bells for anyone, and it's going to go into Lake Orion. So it's a free event for people to attend.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, item G is manager, staff, and attorney report. Mr. Medor.
Only thing I was thinking to add, and I mentioned it earlier, that Dan Durham did come back in and spoke to me yesterday. He is going to come back and he'll start tomorrow. I'm off Friday and next week. Out of town, so he said, well, I'll start Thursday so we can get dialed in. That way you'll know I'm here when you're gone. And so it's good to have him back because he has so much experience. We talked about the potential rental thing coming down the road, and mostly about lack of ordinance store. It's just been tough. I knew it was going to be tough when we tacked this onto a part-time officer's duties, and then he had to fill in a lot more than needed. So that was going to be tough from the get-go. It didn't really work out that well, so we're happy to have Dan starting back tomorrow. The museum called me and notified that in your building we are putting new HVAC and a new furnace boiler in, and so it's good. Perfect. Thanks for letting us know. as we discussed at the meeting. That's going in, I think, the first week of August, 8th, 9th-ish. So we're just gonna help them with the crane will be here to lift the rooftop up and set the old one down. DPW will help set up the barricades here by the museum as you come around the corner. So that's coordinating well, and they're making a pretty good investment. Kim's already got the permits in from Royal Oak Heating and Cooling for it, and we're just waiving those fees, of course, being it's our building, and they're paying for everything. So that's all I really had to add.
Great. Ms. Onika?
I do not have anything tonight.
Okay. Mr. Davis?
Nothing, I'm good, thank you very much.
Chief Sowell?
All good, thanks.
Good. Okay. And Executive Director Westbrook, anything else?
I just want to thank you guys for always being supportive, and for Joe and Terry, you guys are awesome, and the whole staff, and DPW has just been a huge help, you know, with concerts in the park, and it's been so busy, so the next day cleanup, I'm sure, is a lot for them, but they don't complain, they just do it, and they came in and visited us today, and they're wonderful to work with, so very appreciative.
That's great.
If I may, I
Yes.
forgot. I was gonna email it out today. I think I did. That Don Brantley would come back home tomorrow,
Yep.
so he should be in good shape. Okay. I forgot I did send that
Good.
email.
Yep. Council comments, we'll
We
start.
get to have a public dinner for, you know, dinner for our.
Welcome back.
In the park. Well, if we have it in the park, everybody can come.
We can get some
gonna quit.
pasta or something.
Yeah, we have the park. Everybody can come
I'm
too.
pretty sure he got the,
Swimsuits?
yeah, I'm pretty
Donnie,
sure
it
he,
is.
Special appearance,
I
Bonnie.
suspect he got the donut lecture on his way out.
Okay. On that note, Councilperson Peugeot, any?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Ross? No.
We're all good.
Okay.
I appreciate all you guys, and I'm excited for to go to the farmers market and artisan market tomorrow.
Great. I just have one thing I want to mention. So I did get an email, and then I followed up with a phone call meeting with Chad Griffith from the Oxford Community Schools Board. And he was interested and had heard that the village was planning or looking at doing something for a memorial in Scripter Park. And he let me know that the school board has formed a committee to look into doing a memorial as well. And so just kind of wanted to get more information on what we were doing and let us know what the school board is doing.
That's good.
So yeah, the conversation went really well, very collaborative. He offered, you know, any way we can work together, I think is good. At this point, I told him that we would just keep in communication, that we were going to move forward with, you know, what we had heard from the student group that attended our meeting last month with, you know, trees and things like that we're planning in the park anyway. I said that I think multiple memorials is just fine, that we don't have to all coordinate and do something big together, and he agreed. And so, so the school board will kind of move forward with their plans. You know, they, you know, feel some responsibility to try to facilitate the discussion on that, which I totally understand. And then we'll move forward with ours, and I'll just keep him updated, and he'll keep me updated. And so we can just have that open
Great.
communication. So that's all I wanted to mention. Any other comments from council? Okay. All right, I move we adjourn at 8:40.
Hey,
August date?
you made it.
Oh, I'm sorry, do we need to do, no,
No, look, our normal date is it?
is
Right.
the next
we were
month's
We
meeting,
were gonna talk about that, sorry.
Oh,
I just,
or our meeting next month in
I mean,
August.
if you guys wanna have the normal day, I don't know that I'll be here in August, but
When is it,
I mean-
August 9th?
it's just one meeting, so
Okay.
I don't know if it's worth going through the whole process of choosing a different date for me, but,
So, Mr. Davis, do we need, I mean, do you want to provide any, like, advice on our meeting dates, and whether we should stick to our actual schedule going forward?
The
We
more you can stick with
Yeah.
your approved schedule, the better it is.
last
For-
week Mo pointed out that the charter says we would be every second
Okay,
Tuesday.
Right.
And so that's
Gotcha.
a concern.
I mean,
Okay.
you're free to change your dates, but you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't spend time at each meeting trying to set your next date.
Right,
It's really not, you know, it's not great for the public. The consistency that you've built up over the years on trying to get people more involved in your meetings, it's important that your meetings are consistent.
right, okay. All right, I think we're good then. All right, we'll adjourn at 8:41. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
There we go.